Welcome, friends of the Greasy Shop Rag. Today we're going to take a look at a Husqvarna 445 chainsaw. The customer complaint is run, bog, die. So we're going to look in the cylinder first and make sure that everything's clean and shiny, that there's no scoring in here. At this point we have no idea what he's got going on. So what we're really looking for is any vertical lines in the cylinder wall because they don't belong there. Well, everything looked clean and shiny, so we're going to put the spark plug back in. Quick look at the spark arrestor screen on the muffler to see if it's clear or if it's plugged. This one you can easily see just by glancing at it. You don't have to take anything apart to check that out. We'll look inside the fuel tank. We want to see, first of all, what the fuel smells like, if it's fresh, and if there's any water on the bottom of the fuel tank, or if the filter looks like it's dirty and plugged up. Everything looked pretty decent. So what we're going to do is we're going to pry this thing up and see if it runs. Yeah, the performance is dismal at best. So it feels like a fuel system problem. We're going to pull the carburetor off and take a look inside and see what we got going on there. We might have a stiff metering diaphragm. We might have a plugged micro screen. Don't know until we look. So there's 4 screws that hold this air filter base onto the carb, through the carb, and into the cylinder, or I should say into the intake boot. We remove them 4 screws, then we remove the 2 rubber saddles that bottom of that base is snapped into. Be careful of our kill wires. And then we're going to remove the fuel line. First we're going to blow a little debris away from around the sealing area of the carburetor so nothing falls in the intake when we pull it apart. So here we're going to take the throttle linkage off and then pop that fuel line off. Not much to see here with my hand in the way, but that's what we're doing. There's still fuel in the tank, so we're going to plug that fuel line. Sometimes when you take the throttle cable off, it has such a natural shape to it that it ends up just landing right back in the same spot. And that's what happened here. It got caught on me. Bam! We got a clean workbench all of a sudden. So we're going to take the pump plate off the carburetor. And what do we find? That dark spot, that small circle, that's the micro screen. That's the final filtration point before fuel goes through your carburetor. And it's plugged up. Now sometimes, you know, when everything's black, we think it might be plugged up with, you know, deteriorating fuel hose, if you have a black fuel hose. You know, sometimes when it's brown, it could be debris that's getting past the filter. Or if it's rusty, there could be water getting in. Sometimes you see a scum, maybe from water. You can't hear it. I lost a little bit of sound that metering diaphragm was making when I was editing, but it was stiff and it was clicking, and it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be soft. So what do I got going on here? This is, if anything, I hope you guys pick up some tips from watching these videos. It seems like a really stupid one, but if you hold the razor knife still on the table and pull the package through the knife, everything seems to work a lot smoother than if you try and drag the knife through the package and scraping through the table. I know it's stupid, but it works for me. So because I'm using just a diaphragm kit, I needed a micro screen, and sometimes I save them from kits when I don't use them. So I'm putting a new one in right now. We're not going to go any deeper into this carburetor as far as cleaning it. The quality of the fuel looked good. I don't see any reason why there might be, debris or buildup or varnish inside the carburetor. I think the whole problem was just that it was not getting enough fuel from that blockage. So on goes our pump diaphragm and gasket, and then the pump cover. Single screw holds that in place. This pump cover seal is a source for a lot of leaks. So make sure everything's clean and you get it on there tight. Now we checked our metering lever height. And now we're putting on the gasket and metering diaphragm. And this side has a cover as well. Four little screws hold this one together. Look at them go. And these screws don't have to be super tight, because you just got that thin plate that would flex anyway. But now we're going to play a little game called Things You See in Editing That You Don't Realize You're Actually Doing. So I'm cleaning some debris and I'm wiping it on my shirt. Cleaning some debris, wiping it on my shirt. I mean, there's a perfectly good towel right there that I could be wiping that stuff on, but apparently it's easier to wipe it on my shirt. So now that we got that clean, we can put our carburetor on. Now there's a fitting on the bottom of it that faces in towards the intake, and that's for the impulse signal from the crankcase to the fuel pump. And you have to get that fitting lined up in the intake runner while you're pushing this together. So I've got to get lined up. There we go. And it'll kind of hold in place there once you, if you got it lined up the way it's supposed to be. So now our air filter base plate. We got to get the fuel lines on the back of the primer bulb. If you got them all apart and you don't know what goes where, the short line coming from the carburetor to the primer bulb would go on the short fitting of the primer bulb. The long fitting of the primer bulb would get the fuel line that just runs back to the tank. So our kill wire has got to be out of the way of the linkage. There'd be choke linkage on that side. And then we get our saddles snapped back into little pins on the bottom of the air filter holder. And then we can put the screws back in that hold the carburetor and the throttle valve in place. And some of these are going into plastic, so just be really careful about how you tighten this down. So we're going to put the throttle cable back on here. I think we got our fuel line on already. If we don't, we have to do that yet. Then we're going to fire this thing up. So that's all I got for you on the plugged micro screen on the Husky 445 chainsaw. Thanks for watching. Later.